When my daughters were younger, for a long time I haven't been able to go to game nights. Nights were off limits. Or if I went to game nights, to game events that took place at night, it was for a very specific and limited amount of time that took planning in advance. Usually we would decide what to play in advance. I knew exactly what people were going to be there, and people wanted to play exactly that game that we had decided to play. Things had to be a little more stiff when it comes to the schedule. Recently I've been able to go back to game nights where things are a little more loose. You don't know exactly how many players are going to show up. You expect 4 players and then 2 people bring friends, or somebody doesn't show up, or a bunch of extra people show up. Some people come in late. And you don't know exactly what's going to be played. Things are going to be decided there, and you're going to adjust things on the fly as the situation in the game night develops, which is a fun type of event, but it does require some planning, and it does require good fillers. Fillers are games that are easily overlooked, but I think they have a key role in a successful game night, or just in the life of a happy gamer who sometimes just wants to take a break from heavy gaming but doesn't want to do something is not gaming. Then light gaming in a filler form could be an option. So today I want to tell a little bit about some of my favorite fillers of the moment. This is not going to be the 100 best fillers of all times. It is just going to be the fillers that I carry with me these days when I go to a game night. If you meet me at a game night, most likely I will have the following fillers in the bag as a general indication of what the fun fillers available are. Also, I got the idea of making this video because I just realized that so many of the fillers that I am bringing out these days are very new. Fillers, like all of the games, have a biological life. They stay in the bag, and then after a while they get replaced by better ones. And many of the ones that I'm carrying with me these days are pretty recent ones, so I think things are looking good for the filler industry. Little intro, methodological intro. What's a filler, or what's a game that I would consider a filler that I would bring with me as a filler? Well, it needs to have 3 things. It needs to be easy to teach. I do not want to spend an hour teaching a game that lasts 15 or 10 or 5 minutes. So it has to be quick. Also because quick to teach, because the overall experience needs to be quick. If the filler gets played between other games, then you need to be able to fit that game in a short slot, in a small slot. So quick and easy to teach and quick to play. Now this is a little bit of a trickier category because quick can be anywhere between 5 minutes and half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe even an hour in some cases is a filler. If a group of players finish playing a game, people want to reconvene for another one, but it is a while before another big game is over, then even an hour game can be a filler. But if it's an hour game that I haven't planned to play necessarily, it's a game that I'm bringing with me just in case the opportunity arises to play it, then I want that game to have these the quality of being easy to teach, the quality of not going over that time, and the quality of being small, being portable. I'm not gonna bring 10 games with me just in case they may get played. I want to bring 1, 2, 3 bigger options to a game night, and then a bunch of smaller games. And as you will see in my selection, as for the length, during the games that can be played in 5 minutes, some in 10 minutes, half an hour, and some longer. Precisely so that you have flexibility there depending on what the situation is. Other thing that is a plus for me in a filler, or at least I should say in a selection of fillers, is to be able to adjust that to a variable number of players. Sometimes you have 2 players that are not interested in the main games, arrive later, then a 2-player game is perfectly fine. And sometimes you have many more people than you expected that showed up. This happens to me, especially because I organize game events at Indiana University, and when you're sending out an email to, say, a group of undergraduate students, you do not know if you're going to have 4 people or 12 people. in most game nights that you organize at your friend's house, this will not happen. But in case it happens, since it has happened to me, I have games to respond to that, so I can get a group started, set up, teach the game quickly, as then I move on another group. And so I like the option of being able to have a game that may accommodate 4, 5, 6 people. If you had 2 fillers of this type and another group is playing something else, then things work and players are having fun. Because if you're setting up different groups with different games, and for each game there's going to be a long explanation, then half of the night is going to be wasted that way. So these are the parameters that to me make a good filler and make a good selection of fillers, make a good bag of fillers. Now, practically speaking, what are the games that are in my bag of fillers? Mountable Inferno, this is a classic for me. It has been with me almost since I started gaming, well, since I went back to gaming after a big hiatus in grad school and then early in my years as a professor. Mountable Inferno, a simple, quick card game with a nice special component. Cards go in players' hands, like in most card games, but then they're played on the board, on the table, adjacent to one another, and they form combinations in such a way that you're pretty much building the board. And you're trying indeed to arrange the cards in special configurations that will allow you to score if not only is the configuration there, but also is your token in the right position. So you have the aspect of the game in which you're playing cards from your hand. So you have hand management, you have the spatial considerations as you are building the board interactively with other players, and you are represented by a counter on the board, and you need to move from card to card, so from space to space, to reach certain positions. All these aspects of the game go very well together when you consider that it is such a small, portable game with absolutely delightful art, easy to teach, and with a lot of subtleties. There are cards that have special effects, and it takes maybe a turn or two or more to really learn how to put them to good use. There is a spatial reasoning. Cards allow you, for example, to move cards, then they really encourage you to see things from a broader perspective, not just what you have in front of you on the board and what you have in your hand, but the way in which the board may look like after certain cards have been moved by certain effects. A lot going on. This is a game that packs quite a punch for something this small and so deceptively light and funny and cute looking. This is just a good, solid game that I've enjoyed for a long time, and I know I'll enjoy it in the future too. Court of the Medici, or Medici, I don't even know. I don't really know exactly how you pronounce that in English. In Italian it's Medici. Court of the Medici. This is a game set in the Italian Renaissance, even though talking about setting in games that are so abstract is a little bit of an overstatement. The theme is the Renaissance. It is a card game. Cards represent noble people. The art is actually art. It's Renaissance art. It's reproduction of paintings from back then. That's what art should be. Art. Court of the Medici, even though it has that gorgeous art, is quite mathematical in essence. Cards representing nobles are associated with numerical values. You play them on the table. You can play them independently. You can form alliances by putting cards in stacks, but you need to keep the total visible, because you can then use a stack that you just formed to eliminate a stack, another stack with an equal total value, and that other stack may even have cards of yours in it. And why would you eliminate them? Well, for example, because by sacrificing a card in a certain stack to make numbers go in a certain way, then you're able to remove a big bunch of cards belonging to the opponent. And also you have cards that have specific effects that make things a little trickier and spice things up throughout the game. Very simple still, very basic, but with some interesting problems, issues, challenges about distribution and combinations of things. You may invest in big groups that are great, they're going to be very hard for the opponent to eliminate, but if the opponent eliminates them, that is bad. Smaller groups, having many small groups makes them a little less easy to target, but it also scores not many points in the end. The goal of the game is to score points by collecting influence and prestige through these characters. Quick, fun game. Since we're talking about classics that have been in my bag for a while, and another Z-Man game, these are all by Z-Man. There's another one, this is called King's Commands. I like the tagline. Camelot has fallen, King Arthur is dead, Merlin is missing, and then I would add, and the Knights of the Round Table have become marauders and robbers and criminals, because the game is about Knights of the Round Table that are attacking each other and trying to kill each other to steal money from each other. Camelot really has fallen far from where it used to be. It's a card game where players receive hands of cards that represent swords that can be used to attack the opponent, shields that you can use to defend yourself, bags of gold that you don't want your opponents to have and that you want to take from the opponent's hands, and other cards with special effects, magic cards. As it is required for me in a good filler, very simple game. Scoring, or the way in which certain cards that used to attack are used in relation to other cards that are used to defend, it's a little tricky at the beginning. It doesn't really take long to learn. Maybe the first turn or two you keep the instructions out where you have the specific description. So what happens if this amount of cards attacks that type of card attacks that one. It doesn't take long to get past that. So, and then what you have after this is a set collection cards. You're pretty much trying to collect weapons that will allow you to attack an opponent. But there's also bluffing, deduction, and secret identity, because you may have a wonderful combo which you use to attack an opponent that has no money whatsoever. Once you have resolved the attack, wasted the attack. So it is about being able to attack the opponent and to figure out who of the opponents has the gold, has cards representing gold, so you can steal the gold from them. It doesn't feel very Camelot-ish in nature. You don't feel like you're a knight of the Round Table, unless this is precisely a critique of the moral decay of the Round Table. It is about robbing your friends and stealing money from them, but doing it with colorful combinations of cards in a filler format. I like that. I don't know what that says about me. Another game that went straight into my bag, it's a game that I played recently. It's called Sellswords, since we were just talking about swords and fighting. This is a game for only 2 players. Here actually there's more flexibility. Well, Court of the Medici is for 2 players only. This one accommodates up to 4 and this one up to 6. See what I was saying about having options open? Also when it comes to the number of players that can be accommodated. Sellswords, for 2 players only. Players receive cards that are then used as tiles, and they're played on the board in different configurations. In that sense, the general idea is similar to this one, but here's more about direct attack between the characters. So when you attack the character of an opponent and you take control of the character, then you flip the character. Each tile representing the characters has 2 sides. One is light blue, one is pink. Lot of effects that the characters will generate as they get on the board, and a lot of small things that happen there. General rules are super simple. You play a tile, you resolve the effect. There are a couple more things, but not many. And at the end of 2 rounds of placing tiles on the board, resolving effects, flipping cards to the opponent, you see who scored most points. But the rules are super simple. Then the effects that you have to learn are many, but again you have a poster, that's an instruction sheet, which is pretty large, with very effective explanations of how things work. So you can start playing the game, you can teach the game quickly in a game night, you can teach it quickly, and then the players, as they're playing it, can continue instructing themselves about the powers of the characters as the game progresses. Two other games that have been added recently to my filler selection are both by AEG, and they are Lost Legacy, the Starship, and Cypher. Lost Legacy is the Starship is Love Letter Killer. This game killed Love Letter. Love Letter is a filler that used to be there, and now it has been replaced. The basic idea is very similar to what you have in Love Letter. A hand of cards that has only one card in it. You draw a card, you play a card in your turn. Very similar to Love Letter. You implement effects that will affect what other players do, will change the situation on the board. So all the good things that you had in Love Letter, but with an extra element here of deduction. What you're trying to do here is to figure out the location of a card that may be in somebody else's hands, that may be in a special area on the table called the Ruins, face down. It may be alone, it may be with other cards. A lot of ways in which you can manipulate things here. It is not just about figuring out that, you also need, as you do that, to put yourself in a good position to take advantage of that information. Because at the end of the game, each player will get a chance of finding the special card that everybody is looking for, but that will be resolved in a certain order. So if two players have figured out what the card is, but a player goes first, the player wins the round. That means that also you need to manipulate things in such a way that when the scoring phase happens, you will go before the players do. So those two extra elements make all the difference between the Legacy, the Starship, and Love Letter. It's not that one of them is a simple filler, the other one is an epic game, but these two fillers, all other things being equal, between these two fillers that have a lot of things that are equal to one another, this one wins because this one has more meat. It plays as fast as Love Letter. It is just more engaging and with more decisions, more subtlety, without becoming in any way a hard game. Cypher, in the same family of small decks. This is a little more complex though, set in a cyberpunk world in which you're trying to collect influence by controlling powerful characters. Against small hands of cards, you're playing cards before you're resolving the effects, destroying other people's cards, stealing their cards. At the end of the game, you will win if you have more points that are given to you by the characters you control than the other players. A couple of tweaks and twists around that basic idea here. One being that each turn, when it is your turn, you need to give cards to the opponent. So basically, you have a hand of 3 cards at the end of your turn, but you need to then give one to the player to the right and one to the player to the left. As the game progresses, you will also receive cards before the game is over, before the turn is over. So you will be back to have a hand of cards at the beginning of your turn. But again, there is this going of the cards around that gives you a sense of what the players may have, because you put some cards in their hand and maybe they give it right back to you. That interaction between the characters, between the players, gives information on what the players may be attempting to do. I like the subtlety that there is there. The effects that the characters generate and the way in which they interact. Character A is powerful against character B, who is powerful against character C, who has a weakness that can be exploited by character D, but only character A, da 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 da. When I say it like this, it sounds much more complicated and like homework than it is. As you play the game, you learn about these effects. The first time that you play the game is somebody knows the game, they're going to destroy you because absolutely you have no idea of the mean stuff that they can do to you. Then you learn about that mean stuff, you become empowered, you can do the same, and the game becomes much more balanced. The effects are interesting, but are interesting only once you learn them, and maybe it will take you a game or two to do so. Age of War, this is a game that I added to my bag of fillers today. I also just reviewed this game. I like it. Maybe I should just tell you to go and watch my review. But in case you're watching this video, not just today as I've added both videos, to give you a general sense, this is a quick and small dice game by Rainer Knizia, Age of War. Players play the role of feudal lords in feudal Japan. You roll dice that will give you icons, and you will try to match the icons to icons that are present on castles, tiles that are in the middle of the board. You roll the dice, choose a castle that you're trying to take control of, and then if you roll the correct icons, you place them on the corresponding line. Oh, I rolled cavalry and archers. Then I put those icons there, re-roll the other ones, trying to fill another line. Also very similar to Elder Sign, just lighter with less special ideas, special effects. That's it. You roll and try to grab a castle. If you grab a castle from the middle of the table, hooray, it goes in your play area. You can also try to take control of castles that belong to the opponents, that already been taken by the opponents, and that are in their play area. In which case you need to fill an extra condition. It's a little tougher, but there are also advantages in doing that. Stealing castles from the opponent is fun. That's always an advantage per se already. And also castles are color-coded, so if you get all the castles of a certain code, you have an advantage in that you get some extra points, and also those castles cannot be stolen from you anymore. So sometimes you want to steal castles from the opponents before they complete their clan, before they grab all the cards of a certain color. And at that point you wouldn't be able to steal them from them anymore. Sail to India, a game that I played the past summer. Small box, very portable, little meatier than most of the fillers that I showed you here, but well worth the effort. Again, this is not like teaching an advanced civilization game, but it's a small game that has the feel of a civilization game. You're trying to set up your own company of trades from Europe to the east, all the way to India. You move your ships, collecting goods, establishing markets. As I said, there's a little more than saying in this game, and sometimes this game lasts less than this one, but there are many more options, many more resources, many more subtleties. You can try to gain points by exploring like a madman. You can try to score points by setting up markets that give you a lot of resources in a small area, not necessarily going to explore much. There are many paths to victory, many options, many ways to do things, many ways to use your precious actions. So this is a game that is a filler, but feels a little bit like it's a little bit more than a filler. It feels like, well, you played a real civilization game with that type of feel in half an hour or much more, or not much more than that. So good. So these are the games that are, as of now, in my regular rotation as filler games. So where's Cypher? Cypher fell. As in my general rotation. If you're playing with me, if you see me going around with the bag in which there are games, chances are that these games are in there.